Just in time. Written by Andie Madison. Narrated by Melissa, Mike, and several other performers from Google. For Sophia. For all the fun, bittersweet memories. Thank you for being my friend, for making me feel less alone. Chapter 1.
Summer.
A voice calls above the noise of the airport. I spin to find my best friend, Jenna, waving her arms above her head to grab my attention. Dropping my suitcase, I run to hug her. I missed her, and seeing her waiting for me with a smile on her face reassures me that coming home was the right decision. I prefer to chat with her over a glass of wine in person and not via opposite screens. We've been hugging each other for a long time, but who cares? Judging by the indulgent smiles of the people around, they find our reunion touching. She steps back to better observe me, and I playfully twirl in a circle so she gets the full view of my new haircut. It's been ages since I let my hair grow out, and although at first I couldn't get used to it after having short hair for as long as I remember, I ended up loving it. Grinning, she compliments me.
You look gorgeous. Your complexion reminds me of a juicy peach.
You couldn't compare me to a prettier fruit. Maybe it's because I spend my days eating peaches. She laughs out loud before grabbing my suitcase and heading toward the exit.
We are expected for dinner at my parents',
she says, and I don't protest. Over time, it became almost a ritual to go and see her parents every time I come back from my travels before settling into my apartment. Fortunately, the weather is great and not much different than the weather I left behind in Sifnos. I love spring in Madison. It's always been my favorite season. The entire town comes to life. Tell me everything, I say impatiently as she drives us downtown in her sky blue Beetle car you'd recognize everywhere since she decorated it with vinyl decals of poppies.
What would you like to know?
She asks, winking to the driver who lets her get ahead of him as we turn toward the main road that heads to the town center.
We talk almost every day. You don't think I've met the man of my dreams or won the lottery since yesterday, do you?
Her gently mocking tone doesn't affect me. She knows I can't stop asking questions, and I know she isn't bothered. We met when we were both 7, we had the time to get to know each other inside out. Who knows? We can't predict when a pleasant surprise will happen. She sniggers.
I wish I could feed your optimism, but I have nothing to report.
Have you made a decision about what you're going to do professionally? Jenna studied at a prestigious hospitality management school in Lyon, France. She could manage a hotel, but she could also become an events coordinator, a restaurant manager, or even a chef. She finished 3 years ago but still doesn't know what she wants to do. She has so many ideas that it's hard to pick one and follow through. Her smile dims as she replies,
I haven't. I try, but nothing appeals to me. So waitress it is for now. I want to have fun before focusing my energy on a job that will consume all my time with no real respite. I want to take some time for myself, travel the world, meet new people. In short, live your life.
You don't want to live my life. My firm tone doesn't deter Jenna though.
Yes, I do.
I recognize her stubborn streak, but I can be equally stubborn. I can't imagine her dropping everything to travel the world. Of course, she surprised me in the past, so I exclude nothing, but I need to know more before giving any credit to her declaration. Tell me what's going on.
What? Aren't you glad I'm jealous of you?
I search inside my bag for my sunglasses. The sun is stronger than I was expecting. I look at her with a cheesy grin. Of course I am. Who hasn't dreamed of their best friend being jealous of them? One of my greatest wishes just came true. Like Reed says, I'm never happier than when everyone around me envies me. My theatrical tone makes Jenna shake her head.
How you can take Reed's nonsense so lightly is beyond me.
Oh please. I flick my hand in the air in a careless gesture. Reed has the green light to criticize me all he wants. If he ever stops listing my every fault, I'll be forced to do the same for him, and frankly, I'm not ready to admit he has any redeeming qualities. Let's not talk about your brother though. Let's talk about you. Now that I've steered the conversation back on track, I pointedly stare at her while waiting for her answer. She takes a deft turn at the intersection, overcoming the traffic, before stealing a glance at me, a serious expression on her face.
I'm not lying. I was biding my time, waiting for you to arrive so we could talk about it. I am jealous of you. Of your lightness, of your way of seeing the bright side of life, of seeing life in color even when everything's going wrong. I envy your ability to break free from what other people think, and to follow your path.
With a sigh, she continues.
I'm tired of always thinking about the consequences.
I had no idea she was feeling this way, but I set my surprise aside to tell her. Jenna, you're talking nonsense, and as your best friend, I owe it to you to point that out. There's nothing wrong with being responsible. My life has its ups and downs, like everyone else's. I make the most of it because I refuse to let it take me down, but it's not better than yours, or anyone else's for that matter. Did your breakup with Brian cause all this soul-searching?
Yeah, it's possible that was the trigger. But as I told you the other day on the phone, I don't spend my days crying over our breakup. Brian is no longer part of the picture, and it's just as well. Be that as it may, I can't stop thinking I'm 27 and full of dreams I'll never fulfill if I don't take action now.
I relax in my seat. I'm so glad you're not sad. It's no secret I've always thought Brian didn't deserve you. The only thing he cared about was himself, and even more important, he never got your sense of humor. That's something one should never ignore when pondering the future of their relationship. My over-the-top tone makes her titter. If you need more time to decide what you want to do with your life, you should take it. I'm on your side, whatever you choose to do. Jenna smiles and replies,
That's why I'm glad you're back. I'll need an ally to persuade my mother that I'm entitled to make my own life decisions, especially when it comes to my romantic relationships. All I want is time for myself right now. Being in a relationship is exhausting. If she wants to have grandchildren, she should harass Rob and Reed. After all, they're already in relationships and seem to be navigating the whole thing quite well.
You're right, except I wince as I picture her mother. I can't see her changing her mind anytime soon. She's adamant that finding your soulmate is the key to a fulfilling life. She reminded me of that just last week during our Sunday talk. She even mentioned that you refused to go out with Kyle, the son of one of her clients. Jenna's mother, an exceptional entrepreneur, is the owner of several women's clothing boutiques in town. This is why she can't understand Jenna's tendency to take her time before starting her professional career. Her refusal to work with her is another reason for their squabbles.
Yeah, except that you hear her say it a few Sundays a year, while I'm entitled to her lecture every time I see her. It's my dad's fault, I keep telling him so. If he didn't love her so much, she would have understood a long time ago that being in a relationship doesn't guarantee a happy life.
I chuckle, while looking around as we drive through downtown toward her parents' house. New boutiques, new cafes. Every time I come back, I feel like I'm rediscovering my city, and that's what I love about it. Madison is a city full of energy. How's Rob? I ask, thinking of her younger brother. Still madly in love with Anissa.
You know the drill. He's having fun pushing mom's buttons, but she forgives him because he seems to be crazy about Anissa. Mind you, I understand him. That girl must be from another planet. She never complains, and God knows she could find reasons to complain about Rob.
I smile at her inability to hide her affectionate tone. Rob is the perfect brother. We're close, and I can't wait to see him. I avoid asking about her older brother Reed, because I know if I do, Jenna will spend the entire ride complaining about his girlfriend Brittany. No luck though, she continues.
If only Reed could be a little more like Rob. If he stopped working so much, maybe he'd have time to notice what a selfish, stuck-up person Brittany is. She solely wants to lead him to the altar, so she can claim she won the heart of one of the most sought-after bachelors in town. No one dares to say anything because he has forbidden us from interfering in his life, but that doesn't mean we don't have an opinion. Believe me, my mother will explode one day. I just hope I'm there to watch the show.
I laugh, but I avoid siding with her. If Reed is with Brittany, it must be because she has some qualities he appreciates. Besides, I can't see him being manipulated by anyone. Do you think they're getting serious? I ask, unable to curb my curiosity.
I'm starting to think so. They've been together for over a year. For Reed, that's a record, and that's what scares my mother. She's worried that soon Brittany will be part of the family.
I'm having trouble seeing Reed moving that fast. In my mind, he'd have to be with someone for 10 years before getting engaged, and then wait another 5 before getting married. Just to make sure she checks all the boxes. I check off invisible boxes in the air, pulling a laugh from my friend, but she turns serious again as she says,
I wish you were right. Reed is so invested in his work these days that being involved in a relationship that requires minimal effort is perfect for him. You know he doesn't believe in romantic and eternal love. He thinks all you have to do for a relationship to work is make your choice based on pragmatic criteria. He doesn't see that no one else gets along with this woman.
I tap her shoulder slightly. Stop it, Jenna. You're exaggerating. She glances sharply at me.
Am I? If you want to prove me wrong, go ahead. We both know you can become friends with anyone who crosses your path. I dare you to become friends with Brittany while you're here.
I have met Brittany 3 times. Each time was brief, and we exchanged very few words, but I can understand why Jenna wears that smug expression. Brittany didn't give me the impression of an open, warm, and easy-to-befriend person.
You know what?
Jenna asks, braking hard at a red light.
Maybe you should talk to him.
Talk to whom? My adrenaline kicks in, my heart is racing, and I've lost track of the conversation.
To Reed, of course.
Come again? You suggest I should talk to Reed? I stare at Jenna in disbelief. Have you lost your mind? Aren't you forgetting that he doesn't value my opinion in the slightest? Don't you think I'm the last person he'd listen to?
Precisely. You have nothing to lose, you're already in his black book. Who knows though? Perhaps your opinion will make him reflect on his relationship, if only a little bit.
Seeing her mischievous smile, I struggle to keep my stern tone. Not funny. Besides, I don't really know Brittany. What could I say to him? What arguments could I use?
What you told me after you first met her. That she's an ice queen.
I grimace. Oh. I forgot I said that. Even so, I was right. Remember how she merely said a word to me, and then tried to embarrass me for not having a proper job? I never saw her smile. Well, maybe Reed can make her melt. Maybe she has hidden talents.
In bed, you mean?
Her falsely candid expression earns her a glare. Jenna, I don't want to picture Reed and Brittany in bed. I shudder at the thought. I wish I could say why this thought makes me uncomfortable, but I don't have any explanation. I only know how I feel, and this has been the same ever since I saw Reed kissing his first girlfriend in his parents' garden. I was talking about her cooking skills, for example. Lots of people have won their partner's heart with their cooking skills. She makes a grimace.
No, they haven't. That's a total myth. No one falls in love with someone because they know how to cook. If that were the case, I'd have an infinite number of men at my beck and call.
Fine, then maybe she's a good listener and comforts him when he's having trouble with work. What do I know?
For one thing, you should have thought about sex first. If you didn't, it's because you don't want to imagine Reed in bed with someone else,
she says as she gives me a pointed look.
And as far as listening to him, the sole sound Brittany likes to listen to is the sound of her voice.
Oh my God, Jenna, stop bringing up that nonsense about Reed and me. I want to smack her because every time she talks about it, my heart skips a beat, and I'm determined not to discuss it. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. There will never be anything between us. You were the first one to point out how frivolous and shallow he thinks I am. She smiles unrepentantly and retorts,
just because he's an idiot doesn't mean I don't hope that one day he'll see what a great person you are.
I snort. I'd love to fulfill your fantasy, but as a general rule, I prefer to date men who have a little respect for me and appreciate my lifestyle. Reed has always been first in everything, and he believes that if you don't have a purpose in life, you're a dilettante. Personally, I think he's uptight, my favorite adjective to describe him that amuses the whole family. Well, except Reed, because his sense of humor also leaves something to be desired when I'm involved.
Well then let's hope Brittany doesn't find a way to get her hooks even deeper into him. Because if she does, you'll feel guilty knowing you could have stopped her from ruining his life but didn't. And there's no doubt in my mind that she'll ruin his life even if right now he can't see it.
I roll my eyes at her melodramatic tone. Please stop. When has Reed ever done something he didn't want to do? If he marries her, it'll be because he wanted to. No one's ever been able to influence him.
Be that as it may, I don't trust that woman. The only reason she is with Reed is that she likes the role of Reed Ryan's girlfriend, the town's golden boy.
She mutters, her hands tightening around the wheel. Come on, Jenna. No one remembers the days when Reed was a top-level swimmer. I do, but I won't admit it anytime soon. It's hard to forget how he looked when he came out of the water, especially when going to see him compete was part of my daily life for years. Jenna lets out a dismissive laugh.
That's where you're wrong. He never lost his popularity, and all you have to do is put his name in a search engine to confirm that.
She speeds up as we leave the center behind and the traffic becomes less dense.
But enough about my brothers, let's talk about you instead. My turn to ask questions. Won't you miss your little island?
Happy to move the conversation on from Reed and Brittany, I answer. I will. Living in Sifnos was like living outside the real world, but I've missed you all. It was about time I came home.
Before leaving again in a few weeks.
I bite my lower lip and she squints at me.
Are you planning on staying longer? That's too bad. I hoped you'd be leaving soon and I could come with you.
I feel a smile light up my face at the thought of us traveling together, but I shake it off. So that your family could accuse me of corrupting you?
My family loves you. My mother thinks you're the perfect daughter. You can do no wrong. If we make the same mistake, you'll end up a hero, and I'll end up the unworthy daughter.
Her disillusioned expression brings a smile to my face. She exaggerates on purpose. However, I can't deny that there's some truth to her words. Her mother is like a second mother to me, and has always been supportive of my plans. As for her father, he's a permanent ally. He often teases me, asking me how it is possible I never fell in love with any of his sons. I concur that it is indeed surprising since they're both attractive in their own way. Rob, with his carefree attitude, always smiling and ready to jump into anything, no matter how crazy it may be, and Reed, so much less exuberant, but someone you can count on, and with a body and a smile to die for. Well, when he deigns to smile, since he thinks we have to earn his smile. But Rob is like my little brother, even though he's 2 years older than me, and Reed is so different from me that imagining us together seems like science fiction. Chapter 2. We arrive at Jenna's parents' house, and I take in the familiar view as we approach the front door. I've always felt at home here, and the immense garden with its rich variety of flowers and trees was, and still is, everyone's favorite place. It has a stunning view of the sea and the hills. I always thought of it as a path to a new adventure each time we explored it. We used to play hide and seek here as children. We had set up a trampoline, which we used even as adults. We played basketball, volleyball, tennis, and countless other games. Just before ringing the doorbell, I warned Jenna. Don't mention your plans to travel with me tonight. I might take your mom's side. If I have to choose between her cooking and defending you, she'll win hands down.
It's okay. You can enjoy my mother's cooking in peace. Although I've never seen you lose your appetite, so I'm not worried about that.
Her mother opens the door and invites us in, hugging me for a long moment. I feel at home within minutes. Seeing how happy Jenna's parents are to see me makes my heart grow fonder. Mr. Ryan beckons me to sit beside him on the sofa when we move into the living room.
So, little lady, tell us the news from Greece. What interesting things have you done this year?
Jenna, sitting in a chair across from the sofa, chimes in.
It would be faster for her to tell us what she hasn't done.
Mr. Ryan's eager grin is contagious, and I return his smile after I grimace at Jenna. Well, I started learning Greek. It was the least I could do, though I'm not yet ready for a philosophical or political debate. It would take me years of practice to be able to take part in such a conversation.
I can only imagine how hard it must be.
I also learned how to make a great iced coffee and cook fish dishes to die for.
I'm particularly interested in the latter,
Mrs. Ryan says as she serves us each a glass of wine. I take a sip. Oh, I'd be happy to show you some recipes, even though I know you'll master everything before I even finish listing the ingredients.
Don't forget that she'll put in her 2 cents, and your recipe will become unrecognizable.
I squeal with delight at the familiar voice. I put my drink down and throw myself into Rob's arms, who's just entered through the kitchen door. But delicious, I say as he spins me around. When he lets me down, he kisses my forehead affectionately.
Nice to have you with us. I was sure some handsome Greek would keep you there for good.
I beam at him. I missed our brotherly bond. His familiar scent envelops me like a hug, and tears threaten to spill from my eyes. I almost decided to stay, believe me, but the call from here was louder. I couldn't stay away from you, from all of you.
Even me.
Hearing the deep, provocative voice I haven't heard in months, I turned toward the newcomer. Jenna didn't tell me Reed would be here tonight, or that Brittany would be accompanying him. I always forget how charismatic he can be. As soon as he walks into a room, he catches all eyes. What's frustrating is that he makes no effort, and genuinely doesn't care about the effect he has on others. I don't rush toward him. Even if I wanted to, Brittany's cold stare would stop me. However, I keep contact with his green-blue gaze without flinching. It's not the first time I've felt naked under that gaze. Stop imagining things. Not naked in the sense I'm not wearing clothes, but naked in the sense I can't hide anything from him. That doesn't mean I'm letting him win this round. I also know how to throw him off balance. I press my hand against my chest, over my heart. Even you. You may not be my favorite, but you have a special place in my heart. You always will.
I see you have lost none of your comedic skills.
My voice is overly sweet as I say, "Oh. It's so nice of you to acknowledge that." He raises his eyebrow.
Still trying to charm everyone?
Again. That you know me so well goes straight to my heart.
I know you. It's the others who have to remember you're only.
He stops mid-sentence, probably wondering if it's too soon for the hostilities to begin. I don't let him get away easily though. I can play this game better than him. Reed never managed to deflect my playful attacks. Oh, come on. Don't stop now. I'm all ears. What did you want to say? That I'm just passing through before I embark on a new adventure? That I'm only staying until I feel hemmed in?
Something like that.
He mutters, still staring at me. You don't expect me to be offended, I hope. In fact, you should try my approach sometime. It might do you good to get out of your prison. His expression darkens, but I ignore him easily as I turn to Brittany with a smile on my face. Good evening, Brittany. To be clear, that remark doesn't concern you at all, I say candidly. Jenna poorly hides her smile, but I continue with the same tone. I was referring to his self-imposed prison of wanting to always be number one. Brittany purses her lips. Yeah, still no sense of humor. Good luck to Reed to make her smile. I ignore her stony expression and turn again toward Reed, who apparently has more things to say.
I hope you don't expect me to be offended by what you're saying either. Maybe someday you'll feel the need to have a goal and work toward it, if only to prove to yourself that you can do it.
Crossing my arms, I meet his heated stare straight on. Or maybe it's you who'll wise up and accept that opening your wings and discovering new horizons can be as rewarding as working in an office all day, or running after unfaithful husbands or wives. He puts his hand on his heart, mocking my previous gesture.
That you know me so well.
Reed? His mother's voice startles me. I realize everyone's staring at us with an amused look on their faces. Without losing his cool, Reed turns to his mother, wearing an innocent expression that reminds me that once upon a time he used to be so much more fun.
Hi, Mom. How are you?
He comes over to kiss her on the cheek, and she hits him on the shoulder with her towel.
Don't fight with Summer. You're not teenagers anymore.
Fight with Summer?
I smile inside at his faint surprised tone. I've always been fond of that side of him, the mischievous side we see from time to time.
I haven't the faintest idea what you're talking about. I'm glad she's here. I bet we'll be treated to a feast tonight thanks to her. What would I possibly have to complain about?
If what Reed says is true, I can't thank you enough, Mrs. Ryan. It's common knowledge how much I love being treated like a princess. I side-eye Reed, hoping he got the message. I have the upper hand in our relationship. Reed's eyes wander over the sunny yellow dress I'm wearing, and he says with a smug smile,
That's something I don't doubt.
His mother shakes her head before addressing Brittany, whose face has turned red. She's ready to explode. She hasn't said a word since she arrived, but you have to be blind not to see the steam coming out of her ears, and for good reason, if I have to be fair.
Brittany, I'm sorry for failing in all my duties. Please sit down. What would you like to drink? It's hard to focus on anything else when Reed and Summer decide to return to adolescence.
Brittany doesn't acknowledge that last remark, she just utters her drink choice as she takes a seat in an open armchair. Rob, however, seems thrilled with the situation.
One more reason I missed you.
He says, putting his arm around my shoulders.
No one knows how to put Reed in his place like you do. I've seen the show dozens of times, yet I never get tired of it.
Reed gives him a dark look that Rob ignores as easily as I do. We've joked many times before about our ability to ignore Reed when he's not happy with one of us. Reed and I started bickering quite some time ago. When I was 15, Jenna and I were invited to a party thrown by Ted, a boy I liked. Naturally, I wore my nicest dress and my best shoes, hoping to impress him. Reed had agreed to drive us there without much enthusiasm, after we had harassed him for weeks. He only caved to get rid of us. The problem was that we got a flat tire. When he asked us to help him change it, I refused because I didn't want to get my dress dirty. Reed has never stopped reminding me of that. He nicknamed me Princess, and ever since I have tried to come up with fresh new ideas to reinforce his negative opinion of me and annoy him. After all, he was being unfair. He knew I wanted to impress Ted, he could have been a little more understanding. So from that day on, I used to put a crown on my head and walk around in their garden whenever he and his friends were playing basketball.
Anissa will be glad to see you.
Rob says, interrupting my journey to the past.
She was telling me the other day we should have come to visit you.
Well, she's right. You should have come. Sif Nose is beautiful, and from there, we could easily have explored the rest of the Cyclades. It would have been an unforgettable experience.
We'll have to make the trip then, if you ever return there.
Summer's thinking of staying.
Jenna pipes up.
Staying?
The disbelief in Reed's voice irks me. Does he always have to be so cynical when it comes to me? Yes. Stay. I wince at my defensive tone. Taking a calming breath, I sound almost carefree as I say, I've decided to take your advice and give up my life as a world traveler. I thought you'd applaud my choice.
I'll applaud the day you prove you can keep your resolutions. We'll see in a few weeks.
He raises his glass to me before taking a sip. Though she doesn't say anything, Brittany is still throwing daggers at me, so I decide to keep silent. No need to fan the flames. Reed can say whatever he wants, his opinion doesn't influence my decisions in the slightest. Mrs. Ryan calls us to join her in the dining room, and I breathe freely. It was high time we changed the subject. I may not care about Reed, but his words stung just the same. Is it so hard to believe I can settle down? I find out he's right on one point. His mother did indeed cook some of my favorite dishes, such as grilled sea bass fillets and rice with turmeric and coconut milk. Apart from a few more cutting remarks between Reed and me, the evening plays out smoothly. I'm at home surrounded by the people I love the most, and not even Reed's smug smile can take this away from me. Mr. and Mrs. Ryan leave us to go for their daily walk after the meal, and the rest of us grab our glasses and head out to the terrace to enjoy a frozen dessert. While Rob and I have fun reminiscing about our vacations together, and Reed claims he had to save me from myself several times, I can't help but notice that Brittany frowns every time someone speaks to me. My chances of winning the challenge Jenna gave me seem to diminish with every minute that passes. I have no idea what you're talking about. We clearly don't remember things the same way, I say. While we bicker with Reed, I'm reminded of so many other moments when we all gathered here to eat ice cream or sometimes get lectured by Mr. and Mrs. Ryan. This terrace has been the witness of many happy and less happy moments. Reed and I are referring to an incident that happened after a party at a classmate's house. He went back there because I forgot a small notebook I always carried with me in which I had written I was crazy about Ted. Yes, still the same Ted.
You may have a little memory problem,
Reed says, tilting closer to me.
but I remember your words very well. Reed, please, you can't let me humiliate myself. I'm sure I left it on the bench in the backyard.
Before I can pan his poor imitation of my voice, he adds,
What you forgot to mention were the 2 dogs roaming the garden.
While Rob bursts out laughing, Brittany abruptly stands up and walks into the house. As we watch her go, Jenna leans toward me.
If you keep this up, you'll have to forget the invitation to their Christmas party.
She whispers.
She's far from happy about your conversation with Reed.
I've noticed that, but why? She should be overjoyed I'm arguing with him, I whisper back.
Oh my God, Summer. Why does everyone think you're so smart?
You're the only person to believe that, so it's hard to take offense. Although I do hate letting you down. She smacks me gently in the arm while I take another spoonful of my chocolate mousse. I close my eyes and let its exquisite taste enchant my taste buds. Frankly, this is better than an orgasm, I say with a moan. It's when I hear Jenna choking that I open them to see Reed staring at me, his mouth open in amazement. If I can still surprise him, I consider this a victory. Don't you agree? I ask him in my most genuine tone. He simpers.
Believe me, if your experiences have led you to such a conclusion, you've made one too many bad choices.
Quite bold of him to challenge me like this. Let's see how I can perturb him. Have I? You think chocolate can't be compared to a sexual experience? You've given me a lot to ponder over. I've always thought that nothing could compete with chocolate. I pout. So what you're saying is I need to experiment more. Thank you for the suggestion. I promise to take it into account.
I suggested nothing of the kind.
I revel inwardly at his exasperated tone. I bite my lip. You didn't. That's what I heard though. I turn to Jenna and Rob. Don't you agree? Isn't that what Reed just said? That my sexual experiences have been poor, and that I should broaden my horizons? Jenna is laughing wholeheartedly now, and Rob joins in. Reed scrubs his hand over his face, but it's Brittany's murderous look, she's back apparently, that makes me feel a little bit in the dock.
He could be right.
Rob says.
Let's not forget you've never been in love.
You've never been in love.
Brittany has evidently mastered the condescending tone. Of course I have, I say, before turning to frown at Rob.
Actually, quite a few times.
Reed cuts in. Changing my frown to a smile, I fake an earnest expression as I tell him. I see nothing wrong with falling in love. It's magical, and contrary to what you seem to think. I've been lucky enough to have dated some great people. I mean, who can tell? I adopt a wistful tone. Maybe one day I'll meet my Prince Charming, the one who'll prove to me I'm the most precious being in the world to him and for all eternity. The one who will offer me the kind of life I deserve. I continue to play my role, sighing deeply. But let's be real, it probably will never happen. The good news is that it's completely possible to have a fulfilling sex life, without dreaming of spending the rest of your life with your lover. You can take my word for that. Well, I can't prove anything of the sort since I've only had 2 relationships and they both lasted a while, longer than they should have in fact. I have no time or inclination for fleeting encounters, but if my words throw Reed off, that's good enough for me. If Rob claims I've never been in love, it's because I was the one who took the initiative to break up both times. Truth is, I couldn't stay when our goals started to diverge. I wanted to travel, and they wanted a girlfriend they could go out with every week. I wasn't ready to settle down, whereas they wanted to start a family. I understood early on that having a long steady relationship while traveling wouldn't be easy. It would be unfair to both of us if we had to fake our feelings in order to get along. Brittany stares at me with a haughty air.
Waiting for a man to offer you the life you're dreaming of is demeaning for any woman. Even you can understand that, can't you?
Even me. Let's see how she will back herself out of this one.
From what I understand, you're a free spirit. You've never had any specific plans in life, and you're always wandering from one place to another.
I let out an exaggerated sigh of relief. Oh, all right. For a moment there, I thought you were going to insult me. Thank you for mentioning my unique talent of living life to the fullest. I confess I impress myself sometimes. She opens her eyes wide, thinking I didn't understand what she meant. But I won't let her know that her words affect me in any way. My parents were killed in a car accident when I was 16, and I promised myself I would do my best to live my life on my own terms and have the life I dream of. I don't owe anyone an explanation for my choices. I worked as a teenage model for 3 years when I was in high school, making enough money to pay for my college education. I've always been independent, and although my parents left me a substantial amount of money, I've never touched it. I'll use it someday, but I don't know how yet. For now, I make my living working as a translator of children's books while doing other odd jobs at the places I visit. This year, I ran a cafe on the island of Sifnos in the Cyclades and loved the experience. The year before, I helped a team of young entrepreneurs in Taormina, Sicily, design a website for their online shop selling regional products. I translated articles for them and helped them spread the word by asking friends in the marketing field to help us. I seized the opportunity to improve my Italian and to study at a pizza school during my stay in Italy. I don't cook often, but I love experimenting with new recipes, and now I can make pizza dough like no one else. However, trying to explain all this to Reed is pointless. All he sees is a superficial young woman who does nothing to conform to society's rules. The thing that bothers me about all this is that we used to get along well. There were times when we had serious conversations about politics, philosophy, economics, and the state of the world in general. But these days, he prefers to confine me to the role he's chosen for me. Seeing him smiling at Brittany, my heart twinges. I wonder why it's easy for him to ignore the unsympathetic sides of her, but he has to make a big deal out of what he doesn't like about me. Well, perhaps that's what being in love is all about. I console myself as I enjoy the last bite of my dessert. Soon after, Mr. and Mrs. Ryan return, and I can breathe again. The conversation moves to their upcoming retirement plans, which is a much less thorny subject than my love life. Although not without thorns either. They've been thinking about that for 2 years now, but are always finding countless reasons to postpone it. Half an hour later, I leave Brittany, Jenna, and her parents debating the merits of a secondary residence and head to the kitchen. Rob and Reed disappeared a while ago, and I'm pouring myself a glass of water when I hear them talking quietly nearby. I spot them from the window a little farther out in the garden, shoulders close together. Stepping outside to join them, I stop when I overhear their conversation. They're so focused on their discussion, they don't even notice me.
Are you sure everything's going to be all right?
Rob sounds worried, but Reed reassures him.
Yes, I am. I never leave anything to chance, trust me, it'll be a total surprise.
I do trust you. What worries me is that Brittany might suspect something if she sees you acting strangely.
Reed raises his voice a bit.
If there's one of us who's likely to mess up, it's you. I guarantee Brittany won't find out.
Then let's hope you don't forget the ring, because I can't imagine successfully proposing without a ring.
Rob, I know how important this evening is. I won't forget the ring.
A ring. Jenna was right, Reed is being manipulated by Brittany. As soon as the thought crosses my mind, I feel guilty. What's wrong with me? Reed's happy at the prospect of proposing to Brittany, I could hear it in his voice. It turns out I was right, they do have a relationship Jenna and I can't understand.
Let's go back inside and prepare the ground,
Rob says, taking a step toward me. I rush back into the house and join the others again on the terrace. I can't believe Reed will propose. Yet there's no room for doubt when a few minutes later, Rob announces,
We have a surprise for you. Next week is Reed's birthday, and as you know, he hates celebrating it. However, for his 30th birthday, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to hold a party. So we're all going to get together on Saturday at the Far Niente restaurant for a birthday party. I promise will be unforgettable.
Darling, that's a wonderful idea.
His mother seems to be over the moon, and I understand her excitement. Reed has always refused to give in to her attempts at throwing him a birthday party ever since he turned 12. She can't stop smiling as she's buzzing with ideas of how to celebrate it.
I hope when you say unforgettable, you mean there will be champagne, several delicious cakes, and a meal worthy of the name,
Jenna says.
Of course, Reed may not know how to throw a party, but I do.
Rob grins widely as Reed glowers at him. Everybody's delighted, except Brittany, who has yet to utter a word. Shouldn't she take part in the conversation? After all, it's her boyfriend's birthday for all she knows. Unless she wanted to celebrate it alone with him, and that party throws a wrench in her plans. A nagging feeling of uneasiness grows on me. Would Jenna and her parents be so happy if they knew what's really going on? But I can't deny it's the perfect opportunity for a proposal if you want the other person to be surprised. The bride-to-be won't suspect a thing. I may not like Brittany, but I trust Reed. If he's choosing to propose to her, she must have some positive qualities, and I'm sure he loves her, which is all that matters. While the discussion focuses on details such as the number of guests and the dress code, I mull over what happened, but my silence soon draws attention.
Let me guess. You're thinking about what to get Reed.
Rob says. Everybody laughs, because Reed and I are in the habit of exchanging gifts that are pretty unexpected. For Christmas, he gave me a planner. I gave him the Remington Steel series box set and told him if he took the time to study Remington style, he'd combine charm and efficiency. I let him choose what part he was lacking. Count on me to find the perfect gift, I say with a smile. An engagement gift as much as a birthday present, it's a good challenge. I should be able to take it up. I swallow a sip from my glass of wine, ignoring that for the first time, finding a birthday present for Reed isn't appealing to me in the least. An hour later, as I'm about to leave, Mrs. Ryan takes me aside.
Honey, I haven't had time to chat with you alone. Call me later in the week so we can get together. I can't wait to hear what you've accomplished since the last time you were here. Pay no attention to Reed. He adores you deep down and he's proud of you as much as we all are.
I promise, I say, moved as always by her kindness toward me. If she hadn't been there for me when I lost my parents, I don't know how I would have survived. She's completely wrong about her son though, but it's not important. I can live with Reed's criticism. She's barely walked away when Reed, who has just come up to me, asks,
Is everything all right?
Yes, of course. Trying to wear such a broad smile makes my face hurt. He stares at me silently, which reminds me that somehow he's always been able to guess my true state of mind, so I exaggerate a bit more. I'm excited about the prospect of a night of partying. I'm glad you didn't make a fuss about canceling it.
Always ready to do whatever it takes to see you smile.
You know, if you put a little more sarcasm in your voice, you might be even more convincing. Just a little friendly advice.
I'll do better next time. Welcome home.
He leans over to kiss me on the cheek, and for the first time in a while, I breathe in his closeness. The moment doesn't last. He turns to Brittany to help her put on her coat before he leaves, with her clinging to his arm like a castaway on a buoy. I may accuse Reed of lacking imagination, but sometimes he manages to surprise me. Tonight is the perfect example. Contrary to what we might all have expected from him, his proposal is going to be romantic, and I have a little trouble associating the word romantic with Reed. I suppose it's true what they say, love changes a man. Probably a woman too. How would I know? They're right, I've never truly been in love. Jenna insists I sleep at her house tonight and I don't protest. Having dinner at her parents' and spending the first night here at her apartment before I go back to mine is what we've been doing since she moved out of her parents a few years ago. Maybe I should have refused this time because she keeps asking me questions about what's going on, and no matter how many times I tell her everything's fine, she doesn't seem swayed. Jenna, please. I swear there's nothing going on. I'm exhausted from the trip. She casts me a doubtful look. She knows traveling never tires me, but I can't betray Rob and Reed. They don't want anyone to be in the know, and I'm fully aware that if I told Jenna, or anyone else for that matter, it would be a mistake. Chapter 3. The next few days go by in a flash. I meet with friends, visit the city's new natural history museum, go out with Jenna, and talk about Grease movies, our common friends. Everything other than Reed, either at her place or mine. But I can't stop thinking about the conversation I witnessed. I could talk to Reed and confess I know, but to what end? I can't tell him that in my opinion, marrying Brittany is a hasty decision. I don't know her, and just because we don't get along, doesn't mean I should judge the relationship she and Reed have. She may very well be the perfect woman for him. Even though I try to convince myself everything is fine, a feeling of disquiet doesn't leave me the whole week. Of course, Jenna notices I'm a little dispirited and tries to get information out of me, but I resist the urge to confide in her. I already know how she'll take the news, and I can imagine Reed's reaction when he learns I'm the one who revealed his secret. Somehow, I succeed in avoiding her questions and hold my tongue until the big day. On Saturday night, I'm relieved the moment of truth is finally here, and I won't have to pay attention to every word I say. Yet. At the same time, sadness envelops me. Reed will be married soon, and nothing will ever be the same again. Perhaps I shouldn't attend the party. It's not like he'll miss me. I bet Brittany would be over the moon if I skipped it. But we are close despite our differences, and I can't miss such an important moment in his life. I'm trying on my third outfit when I pause and sigh. Why do I feel the urge to look pretty? Reed accuses me of paying too much attention to my wardrobe and wearing unique things, which is not meant as a compliment. He's wrong though. Whether I'm in jeans or a long dress, I rarely spend more than a few minutes in front of the mirror. So why do I feel the need to shine tonight? I have no reason to try so hard. A light summer dress perfect for a warm evening in early May, a pair of sandals and a little makeup will do. It is Brittany's night after all. 10 minutes later, I'm on my way to the restaurant. Inside the taxi, I practice both my initial reaction to the news and how I will congratulate Reed. For once, I don't feel like bickering with him. Instead, I want him to know I sincerely wish him happiness. When I arrive, I take the time to breathe in the garden's balmy air before heading inside. Farniente is a restaurant owned by Mrs. Ryan's cousin, and I'm familiar with it. It's often reserved for special events because of its location, great food, and fair prices. The restaurant's hostess leads me to the room Rob has booked. Several guests, including a few members of the extended Ryan family, are already there. Anissa, wearing a red dress that accentuates her glowing skin, waves at me as she approaches.
Summer, you look great.
Thank you, you too. How are things going?
Everything's fine except Rob invited my mum and you know her. She'll ask me for the umpteenth time when Rob and I are getting married. I tried to persuade him not to invite my parents, but he said we're a family now, and everyone should be here for Reed. He's not wrong, but it doesn't work for me.
Maybe I can distract her by talking to her about my travels, I offer. She beams at me.
That would be great. It would give me a moment of peace. She already told me I should have chosen a less revealing dress, and I should work less because Rob won't put up with the insane hours I'm working for long.
I set a hand on her shoulder and say, consider it done. Moms love me, and I have enough topics I can discuss to make her completely forget about you and Rob. In return, you must help me find a nice pair of sandals for this summer. Anissa owns 2 shoe stores in town that are among my favorites, so it should be an easy task for her. She readily agrees.
Whatever you want. I work with a new designer you're going to love. You can come by any time.
Let me guess, you're talking about shoes.
A voice says. Turning to greet the newcomer, my gaze locks with Reed's. An amused glow dances in his. His dark green shirt brings out the green in his eyes and reminds me how much he can communicate his mood with them. He seems relaxed, which is surprising but also makes sense. He is happy with his decision, which makes me happy too. You're starting to sound like a broken record, I say to myself as I grab a glass of champagne from a nearby table and gulp it down while Reed gives Anissa a kiss on the cheek. What's happening to me? I'm happy for him, aren't I? What do you think? Silence. I see. You don't have any more answers than I do, so let's go with my version. He's wearing an olive green blazer without a tie and looks like a male model. I won't pretend I don't see how attractive he is, I'm not blind. You look very elegant, I say.
Are you planning on getting drunk already?
He asks, eyebrow raised. He doesn't even thank me, so much for being courteous. Champagne has no effect on me.
You don't like champagne.
Tonight I do, I retort as I take another sip to prove my point. Champagne is too perfect of a drink for important events to pass up. Happy birthday, by the way. It's not that I don't like champagne, it's more that champagne doesn't like me. Reed saw the results twice when I was younger. That said, if we don't drink champagne at our friends' secret engagement parties, when will we?
I'm afraid of what you might do if you drink one too many.
He says, his expression concerned or rather dismayed. I won't let him ruin my forced good mood though. After all, I'm trying so hard to be happy for him, that the least he can do is let me drink my champagne in peace. Anissa watches us thoughtfully, but doesn't comment. I'm glad she's here, I wouldn't like to be alone with Reed at this moment. I feel vulnerable, and who knows how I'd react and what I'd say. Seeing him standing there, staring at me, makes me want to storm away and avoid this evening altogether. So instead, I try to turn my attention elsewhere when I spot Brittany walking in. There is your future. I pull myself together in time to stop. He follows my gaze and freezes as he takes in her appearance. She's stunning in a golden dress that emphasizes her curves and makes her stand out. It's the perfect dress for a proposal, and even more so for what will follow. Reed smiles at her, and after giving me one last admonishing look about the champagne, walks toward her. I should take his advice and refrain from drinking, but I can't resist a second glass, and this time it's Anissa who looks at me worried.
Summer, is everything okay? Are you sure that drinking champagne? Reed said.
Yeah, everything's fine. Reed always exaggerates when he talks about me. Noticing her dubious expression, I add, trust me, the only thing that might happen is embarrassing myself by admitting that when my first boyfriend tried to kiss me, I knocked him down. She lets out a hearty laugh.
What? You have to tell me this story.
I will, but first let's go find your parents. I link my arm through hers. I'll distract them while you and Rob make out in some dark corner.
Summer.
She swats my arm lightly before laughing out loud.
Okay, you're right. I've been dreaming about being alone with Rob. I've barely seen him all week.
I meet Brittany's look as we walk past her. She wears such a triumphant expression that I nearly stumble over my own feet. Oh my God. She knows. I have no clue how she found out, but I'm certain she knows, which explains the perfect dress. My efforts to keep this under wraps were in vain. I hope Reed and Rob won't be too disappointed. I chat for a while with Anissa's parents, until Mrs. Ryan approaches to introduce them to several family members. I slip away to join Jenna, who's been waving at me for some time. You are beautiful, I say sincerely. She's wearing a short emerald dress that highlights her long legs and her slim waist perfectly.
Thanks, but no one can outshine Brittany tonight,
she replies, glaring at Brittany across the room.
I wonder what her gift to Reed will be. I hope it's better than the overpriced face cream she gave me for Christmas, saying I'll be needing it soon.
I try to hold in my laugh, but it's a losing battle. Jenna was beside herself at the time, but I pointed out to her that she should be thrilled. You can't say no to a $200 cream, even when it comes wrapped in an insult. My spontaneous laughter attracts the attention of the people around us, who look at me smiling. Well, outside of Reed, who wears a stern look on his face as he approaches us.
Summer, I warned you to stop drinking. May I remind you that you're not the star of the party tonight? Can't you make an effort for once?
I restrain myself from retorting that I'm always the star of the party. I'd only provoke him even further. Jenna scowls at him.
What's the matter with you? We aren't allowed to laugh now.
I'm familiar with what you and Summer are capable of. I just don't want the night to be ruined, that's all.
I stare him down with a frown. My fists pressed to my hips. Will he always see us as the adolescents he had to accompany to parties, and ensure we returned home safe and sane? Don't get worked up. No one wants to ruin your party. I promise you, it will be a night to remember. Everything will go smoothly, I say. Famous last words. He narrows his eyes at me as if he suspects my words are hiding a message, but I hold his gaze without blinking.
I'd like to say that I trust you both, but I would be lying,
he says, not the least bit moved by our indignation. Jenna looks at him with concern.
For someone celebrating his birthday, you're pretty cranky all of a sudden. Is everything okay?
Maybe he realizes that 3 isn't his number, I say confrontationally. I hope when I turn 30, I won't panic and do something stupid. Fine. Reed's right for once. I should abstain from drinking champagne.
Do you really want to go there?
Although his tone is serious, I can see he's holding back a smile. I tilt my head slightly, making a pout. Why? Why are you so predictable? I even know your insults by heart. I'd like to inform you, however, that to date, I haven't made any decisions I've come to regret. Can you say the same? Better yet, will you be able to say the same at the end of the evening? Oh well. So much for keeping my mouth shut, but I guess I can't help it around him. Jenna looks puzzled and Reed seems perplexed as well. I'd better avoid trying his patience though. I'm not ready to talk to him about tonight, so I ought to get my act together. I mean, on one's birthday, you never know what might happen.
Yes, one could almost skinny dip,
he says with a teasing lift of his eyebrow. This time, the amusement is definitely present in his voice. It reminds me that you can never judge Reed's mood from the stern looks he sends toward me. That's his way of letting me know to never lower my guard. It doesn't mean he's not in a good mood. He usually is. I'm the only one to have the honor to make him cranky, as Jenna said. He's referring to my 25th birthday, when I threw a party on the beach and persuaded everyone to take a midnight swim. It's not my fault I lost my bathing suit top, and Reed had no other choice but to go and search for it in the dark. Yeah, I can tell you, he was far from happy. I pat his shoulder playfully. You can complain all you want, but the memory makes you smile. The question is, why does seeing him smile make me feel vulnerable? My throat tightens as I infer that tonight will be the last time Reed and I will talk while we're both single. So what? What difference does it make to you? I chastise myself. It's not like you're interested in Reed. Can you imagine being with him? No, of course not. Why would you want to imagine something like that?
Summer, what are you planning on giving Reed? Hopefully you can change his Grinch demeanor.
Jenna's voice brings me down to earth and I forget my silly thoughts. For once, he has nothing to worry about. I've decided to give him a regular, uncreative gift. I thought I could be an adult, so I gift them a weekend at a romantic inn. It's an appropriate gift for a couple. Because this isn't his birthday party, it's his engagement party. I suddenly need some air. I need to get away from the future for a moment. I have to make a phone call. I'll be right back. I stride out of the room while Jenna and Reed watch in surprise. Heading out into the garden, I walk at a brisk pace, trying to clear my mind. After a while, I slow down and stop to smell the flowers before making my way to the small pond at the back of the garden. The place is dimly lit, and when I spot a couple kissing behind the big oak tree, I smile. Jenna and I have always said this was the perfect place for a make-out session, and apparently others agree. I close my eyes, wondering if one day I'll be the one about to be surprised by a proposal like the one Reed has prepared for Brittany. When I open them again and get used to the darkness, I recognize Brittany as the woman who lets out a sigh when her companion pulls down the strap of her dress to kiss her shoulder. Oh no. That's all I needed, to see Brittany and Reed kissing. Actually doing more than kissing, I gather, when Brittany's leg wraps around him. The show is becoming too hot for me, so I'm about to turn around and go back inside when they move away from each other and start arguing. She takes a step toward me, but he grabs her hand in an attempt to pull her back to him. I hide behind a giant rhododendron when I register the man isn't Reed. My jaw drops in shock. My brain tries to deny what I'm witnessing, but it's confirmed when I hear Brittany say,
You should have never come here. I've told you 1,000 times I'm going to say yes to Reed's proposal. I was honest with you, I informed you the same day I found the ring.
I hardly hold back a scream. Brittany's cheating on Reed, and worse, she's about to accept his proposal while, a minute ago, she was playing the femme fatale with someone else.
Brit.
His begging tone does nothing to mollify her as she turns away from him. She passes close without seeing me and rushes inside the restaurant. The man storms off in the opposite direction. Still too shaken to move, I stay put, not knowing what to think. I have to talk to Reed, I can't let him propose to her now. But do I have the right to intervene? Will my relationship with Reed survive if I'm the one to give him such news? I don't want to lose him. My feet carry me back and forth as I wonder what to do. After all, maybe they've decided having an open relationship isn't a big deal. Who am I to judge them? But no, that can't be true. In the past, Reed mentioned several times how important being faithful in a relationship is to him. How many times did he get into arguments with Rob, who dated 2 girls at the same time in college, about this? He couldn't have changed that much. I stop pacing and sit on the bench, holding my head in my hands. Why do people think gardens are the ideal place to talk in secret, and why do I always have the misfortune of overhearing them? A couple of minutes later, Jenna sends me a message to let me know dinner is about to start. I can't avoid reality anymore. I have to go in and join them. Chapter 4. I walk back inside, put a fake smile on my face and take a seat next to Jenna around a table full of appetizing dishes. But despite my efforts, I can't look away from Reed and Brittany, who are sitting across from me talking in low voices and staring into each other's eyes. Splendid. All I have to do is wait for Reed to stand up and ask her, "Will you be my wife?" to make the evening perfect. No. The word I meant to say internally escapes my lips instead. My table neighbors stop eating to stare at me in disbelief. Cheeks flaming, I scramble to come up with an excuse. Sorry. I was thinking about all this delicious food and how hard it is to say no. Everyone laughs, and some even agree with me, but I'm not relieved. How will I make it through the night if I can't shut up for a few minutes? This time, white wine is served at the table, and although I should abstain, I grab a glass, telling myself it will help me to stop thinking about that cheating hypocrite who's now whispering who knows what into Reed's ear. She's probably promising him a crazy night, judging by the heated look in her eyes and the way her fingers are caressing the nape of his neck. I hate relationships. I'm going to stay single my whole life, I mumbled to Jenna. She looks at me with wide eyes, intrigued.
You don't hate relationships, you just haven't found the right person. But you've been off your game for a few days. Tonight, you're sleeping over at my place and telling me what's going on with you.
Yes, I can do that. In a few hours, I'll have nothing to hide from her anymore. But I swear I mean what I said about relationships. I'll never trust anyone. She shakes her head.
Need I remind you that you trust everyone?
Fine. I won't trust anyone anymore.
Oh, darling. You're young.
Chimes in Aunt Tessa, Mrs. Ryan's sister and the family's favorite person.
With age, you'll understand that although love isn't simple, life is worthless without it.
I wonder if she hasn't just resolved my dilemma. Yes, love isn't simple, and relationships are even less so. Reed is an adult. He can take care of himself, he doesn't need me. Therefore, I have no reason to feel bad about not telling him the truth about his darling. I can now breathe easily, knowing I didn't meddle in another person's relationship. I'm pretty proud of myself. I can now enjoy the appetizer, smoked salmon paired with delicious grilled fennel wedges, in peace. I do justice to all the dishes and chat happily with the other guests. As long as I don't meet Reed's gaze, everything's fine. The meal doesn't last forever though. When the music fills the room and a few couples venture out onto the dance floor, my doubts return. Instead of joining them, I stand in front of the window looking at the garden, which I now regard as the crime scene.
Is everything okay?
Of all the people in the room, why does Reed have to be the one asking me that? Why must the universe make my task so complicated? Why do you ask?
Because you seem a little off, and I don't like to see you like this.
He says, his voice low and worried. Like what? I meet his gaze, but I can't hold it. The view outside the window is much safer.
With that defeated expression.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm having a great time tonight, I object, still avoiding his gaze.
You mean you're pretending to have a great time?
Tears well up in my eyes. Now isn't the time to focus on how easily he can read my mind. I'm hiding behind a pathetic response. Turning to face him, I retort, sorry to disappoint you, but I'm enjoying the evening. You don't know me as well as you think you do. Besides, I thought that seeing me in a good mood all the time bothered you, so what are you complaining about?
Maybe, but at the same time, it gives me a chance to tease you without feeling guilty.
Oh, that's what you've been doing. I had this crazy idea that you were insulting me. Now, a sense of defeat overwhelms me, but fortunately I pull myself together and make believe that everything's fine.
Why would you ever think that? You and I are just being honest with each other. Our relationship is strong enough not to break because we don't treat each other with kid gloves. You know deep down you're my favorite person. Right? Who else would make my life so interesting?
His expression softens as he nudges me, making my heart do a flip. I'm bewildered by his response. Wait a minute. Is there a camera around here somewhere?
Always with something funny to say up your sleeve. You should be a comedian.
I wish I could continue to banter with him, but my heart is too heavy for that. Reed.
Yes?
His gaze is so deep. Why is his gaze so deep? Does he care about me? Yes, of course he does. No matter how much we bicker, he knows I love him. Mrs. Ryan claims he loves me too, and a mother knows her children, right? I should trust her judgment and not give in to my fear that Reed finds me impossible. Are you happy? I ask in a soft tone, watching him intently. He remains silent for a few seconds.
Perhaps not by your standards, but I like my life. Everything's fine.
Fine. Is that the word you want to describe your life? Why would you settle for fine when you can be happy?
I am happy, Summer. I have a fulfilling professional and personal life. I'm not looking for absolute happiness like you or my sister. Absolute happiness only exists in people's imaginations, especially young women who refuse to grow up. I even wonder if you're the only one who believes in it these days.
His tone is between derisive and wistful, and I suddenly feel a surge of strength and a need to protect him. That's a shame. If you believed in happiness, you might be happy, and trust me, being happy isn't a utopian concept. You just need to open your heart to new experiences, too.
What are you two discussing alone in the corner?
Rob interrupts, and I sigh inwardly. I wanted to continue this conversation to figure out if I made the right decision.
We're talking about fairy tales. Summer wants to persuade me there's such a thing as happiness.
Reed exaggerates every word.
Summer is right, although she's fighting for a lost cause.
Reed lets out a mocking laugh that earns him an indulgent look from Rob, who turns to me.
Pay no attention to him, he doesn't know what he's missing. You should be aware, however, that choosing his birthday party to lure him into the dark side of happiness isn't your best idea.
With a mischievous twinkle in his eye, Rob continues.
Instead, you should invite him to a romantic dinner, and show him that happiness begins when you look into your partner's eyes and see your future.
Standing on tiptoe, I kiss him on the cheek. Oh, I love seeing you in love. I doubt I'm the best person to convert him, however. Reed wants a perfect woman, a woman who succeeds at everything she undertakes. I'm far from perfect.
I disagree. I, for one, think you're perfect. Wouldn't you agree, Reed?
He asks, nudging his brother in the shoulder.
Who am I to go against the rest of the male population?
What? Male only? I still have a long way to go. I flutter my eyelashes. Pretending that this is normal, that this discussion is like any other we've had in the past, is essential so I don't fall to pieces. I have the urge to get away from all this because I'm on the brink of losing Reed, and it seems as if I have no power over this. It's almost as if I'm seeing a train derailing but can't scream at the driver to change lines.
While I'd love to see you persuade Reed that happiness exists, it's time to open the presents.
Rob says. Reed's grimace doesn't escape me. He doesn't like opening presents, so seeing him making an effort for once makes me smile. We walk over to the table where the presents are laid out with the guests standing around it, humorously commenting on the gifts as Reed opens them. The chatter is constant, and I observe Reed from a little farther away this time. He plays along, which impresses me since opening presents has been amongst his least favorite activities for as long as I can remember. Brittany gives him a flashy, gaudy picture frame, and I wonder if he's going to use it for their first photo as an engaged couple. I can't imagine Reed keeping that frame on his desk though.
Summer, where's your present?
Rob turns toward me with a disappointed pout when all the presents are open. Anissa gives him a stern look.
Honey, you don't ask a person in front of everyone if they brought a gift to a birthday party.
To someone else maybe not, but to Summer. Yes. She knows I've been waiting for this moment all night, the moment I get to see Reed turn red, whether from anger or embarrassment.
I'm sorry, Rob, but for once, I'm going to let you down. He won't get it until the end of the night. After all, he needs to have something to look forward to. It comes with a message that's more appropriate for the end of the evening. Laughter fills the air, and Rob says,
You'd better be on top of it because you've just robbed me of one of the most eagerly awaited moments of the evening.
He turns to the listening crowd.
Now, since we're done with the presents, it's time to get back to the dance floor.
I don't want to dance, but Rob grabs my hand and pulls me out to the dance floor. In the end, it turns out to be a good idea. It helps me forget what I saw in the garden. I dance with several people, but what I enjoy the most is teaching Sierra, Jenna's little cousin, to twirl, like she says, with a contagious giggle. After dancing for half an hour without a break, I find a free chair to spare my feet for a few moments. I've only just sat down when Reed takes a seat next to me.
I never expected to see the prom queen tired.
You reminded me earlier that I'm not the queen tonight, which is fair since the queen should be the king's significant other.
That's not exactly what I said, but let's say it's true. If so, who are you then? You can tell me your story during a dance,
he says, holding a hand out. I put my hand in his, and he gently tugs me up to lead me onto the dance floor. As we find an open space among the dancers, I realize it's been years since Reed and I danced together. It's happened a few times in the past, but it seems like a distant memory tonight. His smell is intoxicating, like a meadow in the spring. I've always loved his smell. Having his arms around me is comforting. It has always been so, even when we didn't get along. For a few minutes, it's like our differences disappear and we can enjoy each other's company.
So who are you?
He asks as we dance, pulling my mind out of my thoughts. I answer in my best storyteller voice. I'm the poor awkward cousin who will always be in the queen's shadow, the one who's madly in love with the king but is afraid she'll always be invisible to him, so she has no choice but to hide her feelings deep in her heart forever.
Nice story, but I doubt it's all the queen's fault. You can try as hard as you want, you're never going to convince me that you like the queen. It's written all over your face that you don't. The question is why, and I've got a pretty good idea of the answer. As a matter of fact, you just confirmed my suspicions. Who knows though? Maybe the king sees her, maybe he thinks about her day and night. You can't tell what lies in his heart.
I give him a coy smile. Are you flirting with me? He nudges me back into motion.
Am I? Because I was about to ask you the same question.
The fiery glower I send his way makes him laugh. Wisely, he avoids provoking me further, and my ire cools as we move to the rhythm. For a few moments I feel at peace. I forget about Brittany and her shenanigans. I focus on the happiness I'm feeling while dancing with Reed without arguing. Unfortunately, it's a fleeting moment. Brittany interrupts us. Seeing her put a possessive hand on Reed's shoulder, my protective instincts awaken. This woman is cheating on him, and she feels no remorse about it given that she plans to accept his proposal. I shouldn't be talking to Reed, I should be talking to her instead. That's what I should do, confront her. However, I don't have time to put my plan into action. The music stops and I see Rob waving at Reed to join him. Reed thanks me for the dance and moves to the center of the room. Smiling, he grabs a microphone and starts talking. I have trouble concentrating on what he's saying, because everything is spinning. My thoughts are no longer clear, but I know I can't let him be manipulated by this minx. I manage to focus in time to hear him say he hopes everyone is having a good night, and that the party isn't over yet, a big surprise is coming up. Murmurs can be heard all around, but silence falls again when he resumes speaking. Everyone is eager to find out what the surprise could be.
But I'm not going to keep the suspense up. If.
He puts his hand in his pocket. The walls are closing in and I'm running out of air. No. When all eyes turn toward me, I realize I've once again expressed my internal thoughts out loud. I should stop and think before I utter another word, but I do what Reed accuses me of all the time. I talk without thinking. In the complete silence that came to reign in the room, I continue. Reed. Please don't do this. I've always been in love with you, and I know this isn't the right time, but if I let you go on, if I let you propose, I'll regret it forever. Please give me a chance to talk to you.
Summer.
Jenna's worried tone penetrates my brain, but it's Reed's icy voice that gives me a reality check. I swear, I had no intention of saying anything like that.
What on earth are you talking about?
His steely tone should be enough to make me reconsider my decision, but it's too late now. I can't turn back time, I can't pretend I didn't say anything. I'm in love with you. Please don't propose to Brittany. Not until you listen to me.
You're such a witch.
Brittany storms up to me.
I knew you had your eye on him. I knew it. I told him several times, but of course he wouldn't listen.
I should feel threatened by the way she points her finger at me, too close to my face, but I don't pay any attention to her. I only look at Reed, who seems for once at a loss for words.
Reed. Were you planning on proposing to Brittany?
Jenna asks, her gaze bouncing from Reed to Brittany to me then back to Reed. Reed's voice is full of indignation when he snaps.
Don't be ridiculous.
At least this time, the collective "oh" isn't because of me. Brittany's livid, and understandably so.
Ridiculous? You think proposing to me is ridiculous?
She screeches at him. He doesn't seem fazed by her outburst, if his cold and well-controlled voice is any indication.
That's not what I said. The question was whether I was going to propose to you tonight, and the answer is simply that I wasn't. That's all I meant.
Count on Reed to rationalize everything. Too late to retrieve his words, I think, but I'm not feeling any joy at the thought. I may have achieved my goal, but everyone must despise me right now, especially Reed. Reed, who's the only one I care about. Reed, whose reaction I don't understand. Did he just say he wasn't planning on proposing to Brittany tonight? Brittany isn't ready to let it go, though.
I found the ring. You were going to do it before that little schemer made her announcement.
The ring?
He asks, his brow furrowed in confusion. She ignores his question and continues.
You have feelings for her, don't you? That's why you think it's ridiculous to ask me to marry you. Well, she's all yours.
Brittany, please stop. I don't have feelings for Summer.
The air leaves my lungs as if someone struck me right in the heart, but it's not the time to focus on my feelings. Thank you, it's nice to be rejected in such a clear and definitive way, I say, trying to lighten the mood, but the few laughs I hear sound as uncomfortable as I feel after that ridiculous intervention. Who wouldn't be? A declaration of love that made a monumental flop is something that will be remembered. Who else has had the privilege of being rejected publicly, and without any qualms, by the person she just admitted to being in love with? Reed ignores me and continues to address Brittany.
I wasn't going to ask you to marry me, but there's an explanation.
Yes, you were. I told you I found the ring.
Brittany stares him down with her arms crossed.
You mean this ring?
Rob reaches into Reed's pocket and pulls out a little box, which he opens to reveal a sparkling ring.
Exactly.
Brittany triumphs. I can see Rob struggling to keep a straight face. What's going on with him?
I presume everyone here would like to keep the show going, so let me end the evening with fireworks,
He says. He turns to Anissa, who's watching him, as confused as everyone else.
Anissa, I'm not very good with words, but you are the woman of my dreams and have been since the day I met you.
He says as he gets on one knee.
I wanted everyone to know that, so when I decided I wanted to spend the rest of my life with you, I asked Reed to help me plan a party with all of our friends and family so that everyone could witness how I feel about you. I'm sorry things went a little haywire. I didn't plan for this surprising turn of the evening, but I did plan for this ring.
I need a second to register what's going on, but not Anissa. She rushes over to Rob and falls to her knees, cutting him off with a fiery kiss. The guests erupt with cheers and whistles. I search for Reed and see him looking at his brother and Anissa with a smile. A smile that doesn't match Brittany's sour face. As Rob helps her to stand, Anissa tells him,
You're sorry. You have nothing to be sorry about. I'll never forget my proposal. That's what you wanted to do, right?
Her falsely worried expression makes everyone laugh.
I need to make sure after everything that just happened.
Rob takes her hand and lays a kiss on her palm. Then he holds up the ring.
I can't blame you, but I promise you that this ring was meant for you. You're the prettiest, kindest, smartest woman I've ever met. I can't imagine my life without you, so will you marry me?
Yes, I will.
Her voice, clear and full of emotion, leaves no doubt about how she's feeling. Rob slides the ring on her finger before leaning over to kiss her tenderly. Everyone applauds and tears well up. You only need to see their faces bursting with happiness to know beyond any doubt how much they're in love. While everyone is congratulating them, I'm coming to grasp what all this means, and a huge weight presses on my shoulders. I've done something I'll never be able to take back. How could I make such a mistake? I have to apologize to Reed and Brittany. But then I remember the problem wasn't that Reed was planning to propose to his girlfriend, it was that said girlfriend is cheating on him, so maybe I'd better let them work it out on their own. Now that the damage is done, it's a chance for them to put all the cards on the table and reevaluate their relationship. I walk up to Rob and Anissa to congratulate them, and Rob winks at me.
I always knew you were in love with him.
Really?
Anissa asks him.
You never said anything to me. Don't you think you should have shared such a secret with your future wife?
Before he can respond to her, I cut in. The two of you are cute, but your future husband is talking nonsense. However,
you became aware that you have feelings for him when you thought he was about to propose to Brittany? I can't say I would have dared to do what you just did, but if this is true love.
Anissa hesitates. Anissa, no. I promise you, Rob is just teasing me. I don't have feelings for Reed. That declaration was a mistake, nothing more. If only I knew what prompted me to declare such a thing in front of everyone. I'm even more shocked than the rest of the guests about my outburst. Unwilling to let that comment slide, Rob insists.
I admit nothing of the sort. I do know, though, that the reason you interfered is not that you're in love with Reed. I also know that you feel guilty. Don't be. Reed won't hold it against you, believe me.
Does Rob know something? Does he know Brittany is unfaithful?
You did him a favor.
He goes on, while Anissa looks at him sternly.
Rob, you don't want us to start this new part of our lives on the wrong foot. You can't talk that way about your brother's girlfriend.
Excuse me? I thought that when you said yes, you accepted all my faults, and you agreed to support me against everyone and everything, even myself. I can see how mistaken I was. At the first opportunity, you threatened me with reprisals.
I envy you, I say in a soft voice, stopping their bickering.
Summer, is everything okay?
Rob turns serious again and looks at me with concern. Anissa mirrors his expression. Yeah, of course. But the truth is, I messed up, and no matter how many excuses I make for myself, I have to fix it, I explain with a weak smile.
Tell me you're not going to apologize to Brittany.
I have to, and I have to apologize to everyone, especially you two. I'm sorry I ruined such a precious moment in your life. Anissa gives me a reassuring smile.
Don't be. I meant it when I said it was perfect for me. Besides, we're talking about Rob. You didn't expect everything to go smoothly and uneventfully, did you? Of course, I understand how you feel about Brittany. I feel bad for her too, but I'm sure she and Reed will be fine. They'll get through this if they love each other. It's not like Reed's cheating on her or is romantically interested in you.
I don't know what she sees in my eyes, but she hastens to add,
I'm sorry, Summer. It's just that,
I put an end to her awkward apology. No worries. I know Reed isn't in love with me, but I have to admit that getting rejected in a matter of seconds was a blow to my ego. Both of them are aware I'm trying to make light of the situation, even though my heart isn't in it.
Summer, it's going to be all right,
Anissa says softly, and Rob nods. I wish I could be as optimistic as they are. I for one believe that nothing between Reed and me will ever be the same again. I don't see how it could be otherwise. Jenna approaches and without much ado, asks them to excuse us and takes me aside.
Is it true?
What?
Don't play dumb with me. Are you in love with Reed?
Jenna. You know better than to ask me a question like that. I shake my head in exaggerated disbelief, but she's not ready to let me win this time.
Oh no. You're not getting off that easy. I'm not Reed. I know you'd never do something like that without having an important reason, so explain yourself. Right now.
Jenna, I wasn't in my right mind. I wasn't thinking straight and I made an error in judgment. I can't tell Jenna what's going on. She won't keep the secret, I know her. I try to laugh it off like it was all a silly, drunken mistake, but my laughter cuts off with a strangled garble when I hear,
An error in judgment.
Reed's brittle tone indicates his foul mood. I don't blame him. He's probably wondering in which parallel universe he's landed. The effects of the champagne wore off. I have all my faculties now and I don't know how to deal with the situation. I can't tell him why I did something so crazy. It would destroy him if he's in love with Brittany, but I can't keep pretending I'm in love either. Despite what Jenna said just a few moments ago, she doesn't hesitate to take my side.
Reed, calm down. She made a mistake.
You may be her best friend and used to making excuses for her, but I won't follow your example. She intentionally sabotaged my relationship just because she couldn't deal with the fact that for once, someone else was going to be in the spotlight.
He hisses through gritted teeth. You think I made that declaration to steal Brittany's moment? I can't hide my irritation. True, I made a blunder, but his reasoning is beyond ridiculous.
No, I don't think anything. I know.
Then you don't know me at all. I match my words to a frosty glare, trying to hide the sadness that envelops me at the idea he deems me that kind of person.
On the contrary. I know you too well. You see yourself as a princess, you always have, and you can't bear not to be the center of the world.
My mouth opens to defend myself, but he's only getting started.
You only care about yourself. You offended me, ruined Anissa's proposal, and humiliated Brittany. I don't want to see you ever again.
His voice carries, and now the looks thrown my way are mostly compassionate. Taking in the spectators, I meet his parents' gaze and read in their kind expression that they're caught in the crossfire. How can they support me without betraying Reed? The embarrassing silence is interrupted by Aunt Tessa's voice.
For a moment there, I thought he was ready to admit he's in love with her too. I was wrong. I always thought those two were meant for each other.
She comes up to me and pats my back.
Don't worry, honey. Eventually, he'll come to his senses, and if you're patient, you'll win his heart. I have no doubt about that.
Oh God. Things are even worse than I feared. Not only does Reed hate me, but I also have to live with the knowledge that everyone thinks I'm heartbroken, waiting for Reed to reciprocate my feelings. Their pity is written all over their faces as they look at me. That's just great. Straightening my shoulders, I keep my cool and attempt to put an end to this badly performed play, though my knees might buckle at any moment. I get up on a chair and clap my hands. As long as I'm the center of attention, I might as well take matters into my own hands and make sure everyone has heard my message. Can I have your attention for a minute, please? You're all shocked by my declaration, and I don't blame you. I'm sorry for ruining your evening. I can assure you this evening will forever be the worst of my life. At least I hope so, I add, triggering a few laughs. I meet Reed's gaze, which is far from being as understanding as those of the people around us. He shakes his head as if he has lost faith in humanity before bursting out of the room. The air leaves my lungs, but I continue to speak to those who are still listening to me, pretending that my heart didn't break. I promise next time I'll avoid the wine. Well, if there's a next time, which seems doubtful right now. I get down while almost everyone chuckles. Jenna looks at me with a worried frown. I don't give her a chance to say anything. I just plead. Can we please go home? Being the incredible friend she is, she doesn't harass me with questions during the ride. When we arrive home, she prepares her guest room and leaves me in peace. Although I don't sleep a wink, I wake up ready to fight. I'll express my regrets to Reed and he's going to understand, he has to. The only problem is that I don't know if I should mention the scene in the garden. It would be easy but also devastating. If there's even a chance he and Brittany will make up, I have to keep it a secret. But do I want them to reconcile? I've been debating this in my head all night, but I still don't have an answer. What I do know is that I need more time before I face Reed. I better give Brittany time to have a discussion with him first. Maybe she'll tell him the truth. Once I've made up my mind, I still have to deal with Hurricane Jenna, who's determined to find out what drove me to declare my non-existent feelings in front of everyone. I'm proud I held my tongue. I don't want to give her any ammunition to go after Brittany or talk to Reed. Chapter 5. I leave her place around 11 and barricade myself in my house for the day. I only speak briefly with Mrs. Ryan, who's worried about me and insists that things can only get better. She doesn't ask any questions about why I behaved so irrationally, and I'm grateful to her for that. I spend the rest of my time pondering over what I should do with my life now. I had decided to stay here, look for a job, and settle down for a while, but I don't know if it's a good idea anymore. Maybe I should go back to Sifnos and give everyone time to forget about what happened. I for one can't stop blaming myself. Jenna calls me several times, each time trying to make me talk, and it's during one of her calls that she informs me that Reed told their mother he and Brittany were over.
Your grandiose declaration of love has at least had one positive effect.
She's clearly pleased with how things turned out, but I'm not in the mood to celebrate. The next morning I decide that a second day at home, alone with my dark thoughts, isn't for me. I can't just sit within four walls and wait for things to change, it's up to me to change them. A phone call to Rachel, Reed's secretary, provides me with the information that he'll be at his office late this evening. I make a detour to our favorite pizza place and walk toward his office around 6. I'd be lying if I said I feel confident about my chances to get him to even talk to me. I want to turn around and head home every 2 seconds. Rachel greets me with a hug when I arrive.
Good evening, darling. I was just about to leave, but ease inside. Good luck.
Thanks, I'll need it.
I've never seen him in such a state before.
she whispers, eyeing his office. I'm not surprised. My heart pounds as my anxiety reaches new heights. I wish Rachel a good night and take a deep breath before knocking at his office door.
Come in.
He was expecting Rachel, if I trust the smile on his face that fades as soon as he meets my gaze. I have the time to notice the exhaustion lining his eyes before he says,
I see you still know how to surprise people.
I hold out the pizza box toward him, ignoring his sarcastic tone. Peace offering, your favorite.
What part of I don't want to see you ever again didn't you understand?
His icy detached tone sends my heart to hell. The pizza box trembles in my hand, and I set it on the edge of his desk before I drop it. I understood every word you said just fine, but I couldn't let things stay like this between us. I misstepped, and I'd like us to talk about it. I'd like you to let me apologize properly.
Of course. You're welcome to do that. Who am I to deny you such a favor?
He beckons me to sit down and crosses his arms, staring at me wryly. I know you don't believe me, but I'm truly sorry. I maintain eye contact in spite of my inclination to flee.
Why is that? Because you stirred up trouble in my relationship, or because you stole the spotlight from Anissa?
Anissa doesn't have a problem with what happened, she told me that. This was the last thing I should have said because I can see his eyes turning the color of a stormy sea.
Anyone would say the same thing if they were as nice as Anissa. Don't pretend you're not using your dazzling smile and your sweet, lovable persona to manipulate people. I'm sorry, but I'm not falling for it. You need to accept the fact that for once in your life someone's not under your spell.
Okay, you've made yourself perfectly clear. You don't want to forgive me, but you could at least make an effort to understand that I wasn't myself. I'd been drinking.
No. That excuse won't fly with me. If you made that statement, it's because you were jealous. You were jealous of Brittany because you wished you were her.
I open my eyes wide. If I was telling the truth, that I'm in love with you, then why won't you try to understand me? Why won't you forgive me for losing my mind for a moment since I'm in love, and I only acted so irrationally because I couldn't bear the thought of you getting engaged to someone else? He emits a bitter laugh and leans forward, looking me straight in the eyes.
Let me see if I get things right. Your plan is to reverse the roles and accuse me of being the insensitive one, of being the one who isn't understanding enough?
That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying that if you think I'm in love with you, you should understand I only acted out of desperation. I push the pizza box toward him. I watch him take a slice and bite down on it before he responds.
So let's take things from the start. You declared you are in love with me, and I have two options. Either buy into your declaration that you had no choice, that your heart couldn't bear the idea of me getting married to another woman, or deduce that you are a superficial person who only cares about herself, acts with no regard for others, and wreaks havoc wherever she goes. But let's go even further. Let's say you acted this way because you had one too many drinks. That last theory raises another question. Why did you drink so much when you know it affects you? I warned you not to. In the end, we come to the same conclusion. You drank because you couldn't bear seeing me ask another woman to marry me.
He stretches his legs and puts his arms behind his head as he watches me with a wry smile. Fine, let's go with that interpretation. A crazy interpretation, but I have no desire to argue with him about this. The fact is, I don't have that many arguments to contradict his statement unless I reveal the truth. It leads me to the same question. Why won't you try to understand where I came from and forgive me? The tension between us is palpable now, and as he leans closer to me, I can't help but notice how attractive he is, even when he's mad at me. I won't think about it now, though. We're in a fight at the moment, and I need to focus on what's important.
Simple. If you were a decent person, you would never act like that. First of all, you should have told me you overheard my conversation with Rob instead of jumping to conclusions. However, I shouldn't be surprised. You always act without thinking, which more often than not puts you into impossible situations. What annoys me the most is that even though I believe you are superficial, that you live in an ideal world where everyone is eager to help you continue to live in your bubble, I've always thought you'd be able to behave responsibly if the situation required it. So even if you are in love with me, you should have acted like an adult and not tried to sabotage my relationship. I always defended you when Brittany tried to convince me you were in love with me, but you proved me wrong.
I'm trying to ignore that comment about Brittany's silly accusation, and I'm rather proud when I count to 10 and manage not to retort. I even find it in me to apologize again. Reed, I'm sorry. I'm willing to do whatever it takes so you and Brittany get back together. If you're sure that. He cuts in.
Get back together? What makes you think we broke up?
I thought that after. I search in vain for words. So they're still together. Jenna misunderstood. Well, good for them then. Yet I find it hard to say I'm happy for them.
Did you suppose your little game was going to make me reconsider my relationship with her? Why would I do that?
I just assumed seeing her reaction that. I trail off, not knowing what else to say. I don't want to rat out Jenna and risk straining their relationship for any reason.
Brittany and I are still together, and I guess, given that you don't have feelings for me, and you just made a mistake, you must be happy for me. Isn't that what you were saying 2 minutes ago? That you're willing to do whatever it takes to help me fix my relationship since you're the one who's responsible for the rough patch it's going through.
When he looks at me with contempt, I realize I'm taking too long to answer. Well, I can't blame him. He's not used to my silence, so he can only deduce I'm guilty, and to be honest, I do feel guilty.
I knew you were lying. I don't have the time or inclination to delve into your motives, but there's one thing I know for sure. Your act was deliberate, and I will never forgive you for that.
For a fleeting second, a flicker of chagrin crosses his eyes. But you'd forgive someone else if they did the same thing, I argue, glaring right back at him.
What's that supposed to mean?
You'd forgive Brittany, Jenna, or Anissa if any of them behaved inconsiderately, but I can't afford to make a mistake. Just admit it. My mistake makes you happy. Now you can look down on me without having any qualms about it. The great Reed Ryan has struck again. He has proof that I, Summer Reed, am a witch, the flighty, irresponsible, selfish princess he's always thought me to be. I shouldn't antagonize him. I came here to make amends, not fight, but I don't feel like playing nice anymore. It's obvious that no matter what I say, he won't change his mind about me.
Summer, you had the audacity to announce in front of 40 people that you've been in love with me for years on the evening you thought I was getting engaged. Tell me, in what universe are you the victim of my prejudices?
You may not admit it, Reed, but you don't like me. The other day you tried to persuade me that we're friends, that we have a solid relationship, but in the end, I was right. You're not teasing me, you're insulting me. You don't trust my judgment. You think I'm capable of the worst, I accuse with a sad shake of my head.
You're right, I don't like you anymore, Summer. I was sincere, however, when I said I appreciated your candor and that I could be honest with you. Nothing I ever said was meant as an insult. I only challenged you because I didn't want you to get hurt while wearing your rose glasses. I never despised you. I always was ready to give you the benefit of the doubt.
He pinches his nose and his voice sounds dejected. You're lying to yourself. If you didn't despise me, you wouldn't be so eager to condemn me. Did you ever wonder, if only for a moment, whether I might have a good reason for behaving this way? A reason other than being besotted with you, a reason that might justify what I did.
So,
a wave of anxiety sweeps over me, as if what I'll say next will impact my life in so many ways. My hands become sweaty, and I have difficulty breathing. So what?
Did you have a valid reason for behaving so inconsiderately?
I freeze, afraid if I blink, he'll figure everything out. Our relationship is already ruined, at least for now, but I don't want him to lose his chance at being happy, even if it is with Brittany. The silence stretches on, and he sighs with a defeated look on his face.
You see, Summer, you're still playing the same old tune. You're trying to get the last word in. That's all that matters to you. But I never liked people who will stop at nothing to have the last word.
Yet you seem not to mind. I regret my words right away and stop.
Please continue,
he says, his words sounding like a dare. Clearing my throat and steeling my spine, I tell him. I have nothing more to say. You're right about one thing though. I like to have the last word, and I haven't said my last word yet. You may think I only care about myself, but one day, I'll prove you wrong.
No one's asking you to prove anything.
He sits back in his chair, rubbing his temples. Maybe not, but since you know me so well, you know I need everyone to love me. Isn't that my biggest crime? Therefore I have no other choice but to persevere and make you change your mind about me. I can't imagine going through life with someone hating me. He's oblivious to my sarcasm though, since his tone is dead serious when he replies.
Don't get your hopes up. I may not have a choice but to cross paths with you in the future. You are my sister's best friend after all, but don't think for a second my opinion of you will change.
His eyes twinkle in challenge, but his expression remains tired. We'll see about that. I challenge him back. I lean forward, playing with the pen on his desk, refusing to avert my gaze from his. Actually, I just thought of something. If you're so determined to hate me, maybe it's because my words touched a nerve. Maybe you realize that you and Brittany aren't the perfect couple. Because if you're certain she's the one, all you have to do is tell her you regret your behavior, and convince her that I mean nothing to you, and that she shouldn't pay any attention to me.
Who says that isn't what I'm going to do?
His words fall on me like a glass of ice water, but I keep a straight face. Of course he intends to do that, he already told me they didn't break up. What was I thinking, trying to get a rise out of him? What's wrong with me? How do I get into these impossible situations every time I argue with Reed? However, I can't stop myself from adding. So much the better, I won't have a reason to reproach myself anymore. I have faith in your persuasion skills. I'm sure she won't resist your charm. I get up and head for the door, but before I step out, I turn to him and say, a bit of advice though. Avoid proposing to her in my presence next time. You've seen how good I am at surprising you, and I'd hate to be the source of your problems again. Who knows? I might still be crazy about you, and unable to keep my feelings to myself. Plus, I'd hate having to live with the guilt that I broke up such a perfect couple. I don't wait for his answer, I walk out of his office and let the tears flow. I may have been able to pretend that everything's fine, that I will find a way to prove to him I'm not this horrible and malevolent person he sees me as, but right now I need a break from all this. This trip back home has been a nightmare from the very beginning, and my smile is fading away a little more every day. I go home and start packing. The time for hesitation is over. I don't recognize myself anymore, and it wouldn't take much for me to agree with Reed about what a terrible person I am. I've become someone I don't like. When I call Jenna to tell her about my decision, she exclaims,
You're leaving. Don't tell me it's because of Reed.
No, of course not.
Summer.
Fine, I'd rather not be here while he hates me, I admit, sniffling when tears threaten to fall again.
Reed doesn't hate you,
she says unconvincingly. Of course he does, and I don't blame him.
but it'll pass.
I hope so. Don't be sad, I'll be back soon. I'm not going to abandon ship. But if he's happy with Brittany, if he wants to stay in this relationship, I'd better stay away for now. It will give him time to put the pieces together and mend his relationship with Brittany. I'll come back when he's ready to forgive me.
Summer, I told you Reed broke up with Brittany.
Well, you're wrong. He said that.
I promise you it's true. I confirmed it with Rob.
I shake my head. If that's true, he lied to prevent me from going after him. He's convinced I'm scheming to lure him into my malicious siren arms.
I wish I knew what's going on in his head, but he refuses to talk to me too.
Oh, Jenna. I'm sorry. Reed's right. I made a big mess of everything.
Summer. Stop that right now. He has no idea what he wants. He's more confused than you are. You know what?
She says with an abrupt shift in tone.
I'm gonna pack my bags and meet you at the airport. It's time I make some spontaneous decisions of my own.
Because mine are so successful that you dream of getting the same results? She pays no attention to the skepticism coding each word, and continues with unflappable positivity.
No, because I've decided I'm not afraid to take risks anymore. Not to twist the knife in the wood, but you survived the night of Reed's birthday and you are okay. So I owe it to myself to take some risks and find my path in life. What time does your plane leave so I can book a ticket on the same flight?
I don't have a ticket. I was planning on making a big detour before landing somewhere in the Cyclades. After all, nobody's waiting for me anywhere.
Even better. So we'll meet at the station in 2 hours and take the first train leaving the station.
More or less. I agree, knowing there's no way I can change her mind now. I admit that I love the idea of Jenna coming with me. I need a friend right now, and we can only live some great adventures together.
Perfect.
She hangs up. On the way to the station, I try to reassure myself that, someday, Reed will forgive me. The problem is, I have to forgive myself too. Whether I like it or not, the hard truth is that I may have tried to save him some heartache, but all I did was cause him pain. What hurts me the most isn't that he thinks I'm an unscrupulous person, but the glimmer of sadness I saw in his eyes. Being an optimist by nature though, I hope the day I come back to make amends will arrive soon. I cling to that hope as the train leaves the station 2 hours later as I smile at Jenna, who keeps babbling about what wonderful surprises this trip has in store for us.
Imagine eating at a typical Greek tavern with our feet almost touching the water, or at a small bistro in Paris, or swim in the Provence Calanques.
As her voice lulls me, I get more and more excited about this trip. Right now my heart isn't in it, but I can see things changing soon with Jenna's company, and I still have hope I can repair my relationship with Reed. Someday. 7 months later.
Summer, it's time for us to go home.
Jenna, tanned and more beautiful than ever, is standing in front of the blue door of my little bungalow with her straw hat on her head and 2 cocktails in her hands. She has changed since we arrived in Milos, a gorgeous island in the Cyclades, after 3 months of an extraordinary journey across Europe. She made a decision about what she wants to do, and I'm going to help her make her dream come true. It's time I put some of my money to work. Although we do occasionally talk about the day we'll head back home, neither of us is in a hurry. Even her parents have accepted that Jenna needed this adventure, so they have never pressured her to go back. Jenna works as a private English tutor, and I work in a gift shop. Until the end of October, we went for a swim twice a day, but since we are now in the heart of winter, our days are filled with trips to nearby islands, long walks on the beach, cocktails, laughter, and great food from the local taverns. Our everyday life is idyllic. The only moments of sadness I experience occur when I think of Reed and our non-existent relationship. Seeing Jenna's serious expression, I gather she has an important reason to want to go home. What's going on? I ask as I set down the magazine I'm reading to take one of the cocktail glasses she passes to me.
Reed's looking for an assistant. He's got so much work that Rachel can't keep up. She called me and said the job is yours if you want it. You should take it. It's time we go home. I have my dreams figured out now, and you need to restore your relationship with Reed.
I clink my glass to hers. I agree. Time to set the record straight.
I can't wait to see you in action.
Although Rob, Anissa, and Mr. and Mrs. Ryan came to visit us for a few days, Jenna rarely talks with Reed, and as expected, he never asks about me. It's about time he hears from me. I have no idea how I'll deal with the situation, but I'm sure I'll find a way. A week later. My heels click against the smoked oak parquet floors. I stop to steel myself before striding toward Reed's office. A sense of déjà vu overcomes me, but I manage to ignore the knot in my stomach and my tight throat. I've imagined this scene in my head so many times that nothing will stop me from going through with it. I knock and push open the door. Good morning. Happy to see me. I hope the grin I wear seems confident enough to mask my anxiety.
Summer.
He doesn't even blink when he sees me standing in front of him. He just looks down at his computer and asks in a weary voice,
At the risk of repeating myself, what didn't you understand when I said I never want to see you again?
Refusing to get intimidated, I approach his desk. At the risk of repeating myself, what didn't you understand when I said that one day, I'd come back to prove to you I'm not an evil witch? Besides, I need a job, and word on the street is you need an assistant. What do you say we start afresh? I reach my hand out to him, still wearing a smile, glad he can't hear how fast my heart is beating. Hi, I'm Summer. I'm here for the assistant position. If you enjoyed listening to Summer and Reed's story, check the next audiobook in the Summer Reed series, Just Between Us. Reed Ryan hates me, and the worst part is he has every reason to. Therefore, it's not surprising he doesn't welcome me with open arms when I ask him for a job. I don't get discouraged though. I'm on a mission to make him realize I'm not a wicked witch who only deserves his contempt. But working alongside a private investigator doesn't come without a few surprises. When Natasha Maxwell, a popular morning show presenter, asks for help, I don't expect her to become a murder victim a few days later. Yet finding out who's responsible for her death isn't my biggest challenge. Persuading Reed that I'm not interested in him is. Just because I accidentally declared in front of his friends, his family, and his girlfriend that I was in love with him, doesn't mean he has to remind me about it constantly. Trust me, if I had known how much my spur-of-the-moment declaration was going to upset my life, I would have refrained. This has been Just in Time by Andie Madison. Narrated by Melissa, Mike, and several other performers from Google. This is a work of fiction. Names, characters, places, and incidents either are the product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, events or locales is entirely coincidental. All rights reserved. Copyright 2020 by Andie Madison and 7 Seasons. Production copyright 2023 by Andie Madison and 7 Seasons. No part of this book may be reproduced or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopying, recording, or by any information storage and retrieval system, without the written permission of the publisher, except when permitted by law.